What comes to mind when you hear the name Sue Coker? It's different for each and every one of us. She is so many things to so many people. Sister, wife, mom, grandma, aunt, friend. This list is long. Sue lived a complete life of genuinely loving every person she met. Every person in this room can without a doubt say, "Sue loved me." How can one woman possess so much love for so many people? Let's go to the beginning and find out. Sue was born Susan Pauline Atkinson on September 11th, 1943, in Los Angeles, California. She was the first of two daughters born to Alan and Margaret Atkinson. On her father's side, she was a fifth-generation Californian. On her mother's side, she was a fourth generation, something she always cherished as unique. Her early years were spent in Pasadena. Her family lived behind her grandparents while they waited for their new home to be built in Downey. Some of her favorite stories came from this time, including spending time with her Grandpa Bill each day, learning the names of plants, flowers, and trees. She even planted a camphor tree outside the master suite of her home because it reminded her of those days. In the early 1950s, her family moved into their new home in Northwest Downey. She attended Downey schools in the northwest part of town, and she was an exemplary student. They are now Cornerstone Church, Price Elementary, and Griffiths Middle School. She graduated from Warren High School in 1961 and attended California State University of Los Angeles, where she completed 3 years of college. She was involved in scholarship and service groups in town, most notably Job's Daughters, through which she would eventually meet the man of her dreams. In 1957, when she was still 13, a boy asked her for her phone number at a Job's Daughter Demole beach party. He was 19-year-old Tony Shermone. Upon learning she was too young for him to date, he passed along her information to fellow Demole Douglas Coker, 15, of Montebello. Doug memorized her name and number, and the next social he asked each girl, "Are you Sue Atkinson, Topaz 99834? He finally found her, marking the beginning of a 57-year-long relationship. She was still too young to date, but Doug had a plan. Sue's mother, Margaret, was a hairdresser who heard all the town gossip. Doug worked to instill trust amongst his friends' mums so that Margaret would hear all about a fine young man named Doug Coker. When Sue was old enough to go out with Doug, Margaret had a good working knowledge of his social activities and allowed Doug to date Sue at the age of 14. They dated throughout high school and attended each other's proms and dances. At one point, Sue came down with a case of mono, and Doug tried his hardest to catch the kissing disease from Sue. After months of failed attempts, Sue got better, and they went on with their courtship in a healthy manner. Doug knew one of Sue's universities of choice was UC Berkeley, and he didn't want to lose her, so he proposed on the way home from her senior night at Candlestick Country Club. When Doug turned 21 and was legally an adult, they set a wedding date. They were married December 16, 1962, at Downey Moravian Church. They lived in Montebello all 52 years of their marriage. They moved into their first home in 1965, purchased in the south end of town for $17,900. As their family grew, so did their house. It went from about 1,000 square feet to 2,700. It accommodated aging grandparents, ailing in-laws, 4 children, and numerous pets. While some families rescue animals, the Coker family mostly rescued teenagers, mostly friends of their 4 children. Dinner was on the table at 6 p.m. every night, and Sue would feed 8 to 14 people on any given evening. There was always enough to go around. Sue's life of faith was the foundation of her generosity. Doug and Sue attended Park Avenue Christian Church throughout their marriage. Early on, they were active as youth sponsors, and as their children grew, Sue was involved in all sorts of ministries to children. After her children were grown, She really loved tutoring at the church's homework house each week. She enjoyed being part of Women's Fellowship for many years, and for the past few years has enjoyed hosting Tuesday night Bible studies in her home. She always enjoyed helping serve Thanksgiving and Easter meals to the entire church, vacation Bible school dinners, and any meals she was asked to provide. A few years ago, God laid on her heart a desire to feed people on Christmas Eve. Her desire was to set an example for her children and grandchildren, and had her family help in serving the meal. In 2014, when she wasn't feeling great, she was still able to feed 60 to 80 people a delicious Christmas Eve soup dinner. Sue lived a busy life in service of her family and those around her. While her children were small, she cooked for Park Avenue Christian Day Nursery when they started their ministry in 1970. When her oldest daughter, Ruthie, began kindergarten at Montebello Baptist School, she turned her attention to helping start a school library. She served in the library until 1991. From the late 1970s until the time of her death, Sue worked for Koppel Company, the family business, as their secretary-treasurer and CFO. All the while, she was a faithful carpooler and homework helper to her children. When her children were teens and her home was loud, Sue spent most evenings with a pad of graph paper on her lap, sketching her one-bedroom dream home in Carmel, where she and Doug would retire. She said the lots are very small there, but the study would convert to a guest room for occasional visitors. When her first grandchild arrived in the summer of 1986, she put away her graph paper, realizing Carmel would be just too far to live from precious, growing family. In the late 1990s, as Doug and Sue became empty nesters, Sue's mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Sue felt Mom should come live with her, and both parties needed a neutral turf. So the graph paper came out again. Doug and Sue took an opportunity to purchase a home close to theirs, and they had it remodeled. Sue designed an addition with room for everyone and everything she enjoyed, not the least of which is her beloved, well-used set of encyclopedias. She also designed a master suite to rival the size of her entire Carmel dream home. As the Cokers moved into their new home, Sue moved into a new phase in her ministry to others. Now she could accommodate over 100 guests easily. She enjoyed doing so. On her birthday, in 2014, she had a very painful, infected cyst removed. The diagnosis was melanoma and was followed by a second surgery to gain clear margins. She worked diligently throughout the following season to prepare Doug and her family for life without her, while squeezing every drop of joy out of her time here. After her first surgery and before her diagnosis, to her delight, she was cleared to travel. So she and Doug enjoyed a New England Fall Colors tour they had planned. She did everything she could to learn about her condition and her options, and she looked forward to being healed. However, through her faith in Jesus Christ, she was at peace knowing that God had already healed her on the cross for all eternity. It was up to Him to define healing for her physical body. In late December and early January, as she explored treatment options and pursued a course of actions with her doctors, the melanoma exploded within her like a wildfire. By early February, as she was about to begin treatment, it was everywhere, and treatment would give her a few weeks of extra time, accompanied by horrible side effects. Facing difficult decisions, Doug and Sue instead chose hospice in their home. Her children, nieces, and friends took turns putting dinner on the table each night at 6 p.m. for her entire family. They had learned from the best. There was always enough to go around. A parade of visitors and loved ones flooded the home for over a week. Dinner was served each night to dozens of people because Sue's family has multiplied. Sue sat with 2 phones by her side each day for a week and answered each call and text she could. She spoke to each visitor. She hugged each child, flirted with every baby, and had a twinkle in her eye each time she smiled, until she transitioned to the final stages of her time with us. She rallied to come to dinner until she could no longer leave her room. She loved every minute of the most wonderful party of her lifetime. She was brought to tears of joy many times over the tremendous blessings of that week. She went home to be with the Lord in the 5 a.m. hour on Monday, February 16, 2015. At the age of 71, after just over 1 week of hospice. What was the worst and most trying time in our family's life was also one of the best weeks any of us has ever had. She was always a loving wife to Doug. She loved him so deeply. She was indisputably his better half, and they had made a formidable team. She was a loving sister to Pat and a loving sister-in-law to Steve. She was the best mom ever to Ruthie, Mary, Carol, and Billy, and a supportive mother-in-law to their spouses. She was a loving grandmother to her 15 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. She was an aunt to 4 nieces and a nephew, 18 grandnephews and nieces, and 12 great-grandnephews and nieces. She was delighted by each one and delighted in sharing stories about each of them whenever given an opportunity. She was always quiet, brave, obedient, dedicated, present, patient, gracious, generous, and lovely. But this was especially true during her final week with us. Wherever she fell short, she trusted God to fill any gaps in her character. He was always faithful. She was a friend and a mentor to many, and a mother to any who needed her. Before Sue left, she left a few words for all of her loved ones.
My dearest Doug, thank you for 57 happy years. I couldn't have asked for a better life. You spoiled me. You took such good care of me. I love you so much. Patty, I'm proud you are my sister. I pray God will continue to bless you and Steve, along with your family. I love you. Ruthie, Mary, Carol, and Billy, you are all unique and special. When I needed you most, each of you focused on an entirely different area of my life. While I was on hospice, you covered everything and met my needs. You made me so happy and proud. Thank you. I love you. To my many grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, I don't have a favorite flower or song or Bible verse. It leaves me open to have as many favorites as I want. You are all my favorites, and I love you. To any of my friends who don't know Jesus, I have always been afraid to share my faith using words because I was afraid I'd say something wrong. So God gave me gifts of service through His Holy Spirit so I could show you His love. And now God has brought you here today, so I will tell you with words. God sent His only Son, Jesus, to live, suffer, die, and rise again for you. When I first believed in Him, He forgave me and healed me. He sent His Holy Spirit to help me. He gave me His word to teach me. He blessed me. And now He has called me home, and I am with Him now and forever. I will be waiting for you, and I pray that each of you will join us one day. Trust in Him, and He will take care of everything else. Love, Sue.
Sue is loved, and she will be deeply missed. A woman of relatively few words. Philippians 4:13 is one of her favorite verses. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Yes, Sue, indeed.